Don't buy a house in southeast Queensland. Do this instead, is what I would say if I didn't think this was a magnificent place to live. But you've clicked on the video, so you might as well hear me out. So, if you've been following the news lately, or you've been reading anything on Facebook or Instagram, you might have seen that a few reports have suggested the southeast Queensland sales market is going strong, whilst Sydney and Melbourne have been going down. Perth going strong, Sydney and Melbourne going down. Myself, I am a southeast Queensland local here on the Gold Coast, and I've got to say, what a beautiful place to live. I've been here since 2013. Very, very blessed, very fortunate to be where I am. But yes, you're right. It's gotten fairly expensive. If you jump on your laptop right now, or your phone, possibly even Instagram, and you look up house prices, Sydney, you might see some flash 4, 5, 10, 15, $20 million properties pop up. In the far eastern suburbs, the northern beaches, Point Piper, Vaucluse, right near the CBD, tremendously expensive real estate. They even made a show about it, which is all about Sydney real estate, of course. Brisbane hasn't quite got the same reputation just yet, but it's pretty expensive. The inner suburbs, I mean, we're talking, $3, $4, $5 million as well. There's been a few transactions north of that $10 million mark. And if you come down to where I'm located on the Gold Coast, anything on the beachfront is possibly 15, 20 million plus. People love to live here. The median housing sale price in Sydney is still north of that of anything in southeast Queensland, but the median price doesn't quite tell the full story. In the most recent election cycle, one of the massive battlegrounds for political position fought between the respective parties was, of course, housing affordability. There are 28 million Australians now. How are we going to get all of them into their own housing? So, as a promise of the campaign, the Albanese government delivers 5% deposit for every Australian with no place limit. And I guess that would be really helpful right across the country if there were entry-level properties that you could buy for a 5% deposit that might be between 20 or 30,000. Here's a problem for you though, and if you're in the southeast Queensland area, you might know what I'm about to say next. There is absolutely nothing you can buy between the $400,000 and $600,000 mark. If you're looking to get started in the property market, there's really not that much choice out there for anyone in the southeast Queensland market. To give you an idea of where I'm thinking with this, imagine you bought your first property, like they did in the 70s and 80s, where the first property you buy might be the last, so let's make it work for the entire family. You could probably secure a 3-bedroom house of some sort for about 4 times household income, but that's just it. In southeast Queensland, as I'm about to show you, that is just no longer the case. Take this example. Now remember, I understand certain suburbs maybe have higher crime rates or aren't considered as desirable to live in, but if you're looking to get started and just slug it out and make things work to start your first home, you've got some options. In Melbourne, Sydney, Perth, Adelaide, Canberra, anywhere else in Australia, but you do not have that option in the southeast Queensland corridor, as I'm about to show you. Now, for the purposes of criteria, I have chosen anywhere within an hour of the state capital CBD as within the area. That 1 hour can be travelled by car or it can be travelled by public transport. Of course, there's not much public transport in southeast Queensland. But to get the ball rolling, take a look at this property in Ellen Grove. It's about 29 minutes from the CBD if you drive without any traffic, but it's $725,000 to get 3 bedrooms and 2 car parks with 2 bathrooms as well. Yes, there are a few starter homes that are a touch cheaper than that, but if push came to shove, you could absolutely live in that property for 30 years and pay the entire mortgage off and raise a family. Let's fly all the way over to Perth now, where in the suburb of Armidale, you can secure this 3-bed, 2-bath, 2-car for $640,000. That reduced purchase price and therefore reduced mortgage size could be the difference between being able to afford to raise a family there and not. At just 34 minutes of a drive from the CBD, totally reasonable that a first home purchaser could purchase a property like that. But still, we can do better. Just 23 minutes from the CBD of Melbourne, you have the suburb of Broadmeadows, where you can see this townhouse/unit that sold for $490,000 in March of this year. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, 2 car spaces, 23 minutes from the CBD, 490 grand. But Jordan, I don't want to live in Melbourne. It's a dead city. I want to live in Sydney because it's growing. Try this one in Toongabbie. Right in front of the train station, they're pitching it between $580,000 and $600,000. I mean, now this in itself is a little bit further out. Using the train station that's right out the front, you're about 50 minutes from the CBD. But still, you're in Sydney. It is just a plain fact. Properties like that do not exist in southeast Queensland. Not if you go as far down to the Gold Coast, not if you go as far north as the Sunshine Coast, not even if you go as far west as Ipswich. They do not exist. So rather than just complain, how about we offer a solution? So for the purposes of comparing the 2 cities that I think exemplify this idea the best, I've taken the property in Melbourne and I've also taken the property in Brisbane, and we're going to compare them on the following basis. A 5% deposit, an average 6% interest rate, a 30-year mortgage, and a $100 per week body corporate. I understand there's going to be council rates and water rates as well, but let's just say for the purposes of it, they've both got a $100 body corporate or owners association fees. Using a 5% deposit on the Brisbane property leaves you with approximately $690,000 in mortgage balance to begin paying from day one. Throw in a $100 per week body corporate and you're looking at about $1,050 a week for your first home. Instead, we can compare with the same statistics. Using a 5% deposit to purchase the property in Melbourne, your mortgage balance on day one would be $466,000, and with a $100 per week body corporate, brings the weekly repayments to $744. That's $308 cheaper to live in a different city than it is to live in Brisbane. But to add some extra sparkle to the idea, how much does it cost for me to fly all the way from Brisbane to Melbourne and Melbourne to Brisbane? Say your entire life is set up here in Brisbane, but you still want to get started in the property market. What do you do? Well, if you just look at Jetstar, it doesn't take very long before you can find return domestic flights from Melbourne for about $200 return. Throw in about $50 either side in transport to the airport costs and you're neutral. So the proposition is really simple. If you're a first home buyer in southeast Queensland, there are ways that I've just shown that it is actually cheaper to move elsewhere and buy your first property and still not miss out on your social life in southeast Queensland. What's more, if you're in southeast Queensland and you have work from home eligibility, or your profession is work from home friendly, like perhaps graphic design, you could, in theory, purchase a property in Melbourne, secure a job in graphic design, work from the office from Monday through Wednesday, fly out on Wednesday night back to your family, back to your home in southeast Queensland, work from home on Thursday and Friday, spend Thursday, Friday, Saturday and Sunday afternoon up in southeast Queensland where you live and grew up, back to Melbourne on Sunday night, get back to your house for $50, and it would be the same cost as what it costs for you to buy your first property in southeast Queensland. Obviously, there's plenty of trade-offs I haven't mentioned, but that seems like a pretty opportunistic way to get your foot in the property ladder. Of course, if there's 2 of you to be able to service the mortgage and you're in a relationship or a marriage, yes, it's going to be a little bit different, it's going to be more expensive. But instead of flying from Melbourne to the southeast Queensland corridor every week, if you just flew out every second week, the numbers would work out the same. Add in an infant under 2, and you could be doing this every 3rd week for the same cost as what it costs you to buy your first home in southeast Queensland. For years and years, citizens and residents of Australia right across the country have always looked to Sydney and to Melbourne as the booming markets, the place to be. That's shifted a lot recently in favour of Brisbane. But what I have to say to you in stark comparison, there's a reason that property markets like Sydney and Melbourne have always been the most expensive. And it's for this reason. They have a very efficient property ladder. Even in Sydney, yes, you're 45-50 minutes away from the Sydney CBD, but they did very well to build a Parramatta so that there would be properties that people could buy and still be proximal to Sydney. Melbourne is the same. Tremendous amounts of development in South Bank, Melbourne, and all of the other inner city suburbs that have enabled buyers to get in and secure a property no matter your income. Take this image that I found as well. You can see that on the left-hand side, you've got buyers who are looking to purchase in the rest of Australia, in all of the different cities. You can see clearly that they're easily able to get onto the first few rungs of the ladder. But if you're going to get into the property ladder in southeast Queensland, which I believe is the best place in Australia to live, it's not just going to require you to stretch, but you're going to have to jump as well.